As you heard, the United States Senate has approved a bill to reopen the government after a record-long shutdown, with 8 Democratic congressmen breaking party ranks. I have framed the question for you. What made this shutdown record long, and what lessons should be drawn for future budget or stand-off politics?
Thank you, gentlemen, and also our guest from USA, Dr. Norman, and our viewers. So I think you put a right question regarding the Democrats and Republicans have agreed upon a compromise. Particularly, they are on the way to make a compromise to reopen the federal services, like federal employees who are being unpaid for nearly a month. So, unlike other countries in the world, USA has a unique system. Like, although in the other countries you can run your governmental functions through previous year's budget, but in the US case, you have to be, when government decide that you have to stop, it has to be a stop. No more function is going on. So I think that's a huge implication for the employees, federal employees, their family members, and also the general public who is actually denied from their services and support from the government employees and the department. So I think this is a beautiful compromise that made by the Democrats and Republic to reopen the federal government services. I think at the end of the day, democracy is beautiful exercise of compromise. At the end of the day, until and unless you decide that you don't need the federal government, you can continue doing like this. But you need a federal government, you need federal government services and department are running. So which is very much linked with people's life and livelihood, and also the people need those government services. As you said, the air traffic control, which is hugely has an implication for people travels, leisure, and also businesses. So I think at the end of the day, they made a beautiful compromise, and it's really needed. And at the end of the day, I think this US system of government shutdown is quite unique in the global perspective, and I think it's very important in terms of putting check and balance in the government expenditure, and also including the opposition into the decision-making process, which is US Senate is doing.
For other countries facing similar budget impasses, what models or warnings does this case provide? Along with, I just want to ask you one question. Do you find this kind of things is a beauty of democracy or balance of power?
Thank you so much. Like it gives a voice to the opposition political party to put the government party into accountability, like the expenses they are made in the whole year. So I think USA in severe trouble for a long period of time due to their global pledges, like the pledges, open pledges they gave for Israel for a long period of time. They have also huge expenses in the Ukraine war, which put US economy in complete trouble. Actually, their debt, the limit is exceeding year after year, and that puts a huge implication on the federal budget capacity. So that's why this problem is happening. Although our guest Norman was saying that there is the issues of the health premium and how healthcare issues, like how they're gonna settle that. Although Republican is very much pro-market, but the Democrat is trying to put that into an accountable situation. So that's the main emphasis. But at the end of the day, I think this is a good example, like how you put your ruling party into accountable situation. And I quite like this. Although it's a huge implication for the federal workers, their families, and the people who are taking those federal services. But at the end of the day, it is really a good way to make the ruling party accountable about their expenses and accountable about their budgetary capacity, which is really important and very beautiful exercise of democracy in USA in this regard.
If political standoffs like shutdown continue to affect essential services like aviation, hospitals, schools, road transportations, shipping lines, it raises serious questions about the governance strength, risk management, and prioritization of public safety. Do you expect it from a country like United States, from an administration like Donald Trump?
Thank you. Yeah, you rightly remarked about that, why the government is needed, particularly to improve the security and maintain the stability in your everyday lives. That's why you need a government. Otherwise, you don't need a government. So, considering the emergency services, I think even the shutdown is taking place, in the future, America should come up with a solution like the emergency services should be exempted from the shutdown, and there should be funds should be remain kept for those emergency services like the air traffic control, hospitals, and roads and transports, and other the emergency law and order, maintaining those issues. So I think there should be globally there is a tradition that emergency services are usually out of I mean any other prohibition or any other movement. So I think emergency service should be kept running on, even though the shutdown is taking place in the future for like the I mean reducing government, I mean people anger on the government system and government. Yeah.
How will this decision be perceived by the public and victims of or activists who oppose Sarkozy's past actions?
Thank you so much. I think the court actually judged the issues on the basis of that there is no concrete evidence they found that the monetary transaction taken place between Gaddafi and the aides of Nicolas Sarkozy. So, although there are charges, criminal charges, there are charges of corruptions that before his election campaign he took money from Muammar Gaddafi for his election financing. So that's the claim, that's the conviction he got. But the court actually look into the issues from the merit of like whether any concrete evidences is produced regarding that matter. But the court has found that I think he has his close aides population has a contract with the Gaddafi's close aide populations, and that's how that evidence and the timing of that conversation and timing of the association between the two countries, I mean Nicolas Sarkozy's aides and Gaddafi's aides, so which made a court to presume that there might be something going on, there might be something happened between them. So on that ground, actually, since they do not produce any concrete evidences, that's why probably court has given him some release or giving him some bail, although he will be in the judicial supervision. That's the beauty. Yeah.
Right, sir. I will go for a break, but before that, I want to do two small questions to both of you, because I have huge interest on this judicial process. Could this set a precedent for other political leaders globally facing legal consequences? Because we have very bad experience. A 78-year-old former 3 times prime minister was in prison for nothing. What is your comment on that?
So I think, yeah, you know, I mean, law is for everyone, and it doesn't give any differential treatment to each citizen. It's actually, otherwise there should be no constitution in the country. The constitution give equal rights to every people of the country. It's not Correct. That elite or non-elite, although behind the curtain we see some of these issues globally. That's not in any cases, but as far we understand, in the Western democracies, they have a very beautiful systems. They can penalize any person, and the leaders of the Western democracies are also very much careful about their political and everyday day-to-day affairs. That's the Western democracy.
Right, sir. Look at what's happening in African region. African Union calls for urgent action amid fighting in Central Sudan and Mali. Hundreds of people displaced by fighting in Central Sudan, and African Union is urging urgent intervention in Mali amid unrest. But they did not mention whether it is French troops, American troops, or United Nations troops. Probably they are talking about the African combined forces. Sir, what is your latest update on that? I
think, yeah, the situation is very grave at the moment in Sudan. What's going on at the moment, like, it's very unfortunate. If you have resources, if you have like rare materials like gold in your country, it's not. It is really bad situation for African population and the countries and their future. Like what happening in at the moment Sudan and what happens in other earlier places is very devastating and very heartbreaking at the moment. So the casualties that are taking place within the government and within the two government forces, like the paramilitary force and army forces, and that create a massive insecurities and casualties for the Sudanese population. So at the moment, I deeply agree that the African Union should come up, either rather than Western troops or Western countries' dependencies, they have to come out from the African voice and African way of containing the crisis at the moment that's happening in Sudan. So I think it would be really good move if all the African countries contribute their the human power, human soldiers to come into take the control of the situation in Sudan and make a peace agreement between the two fighting forces. And it's a high time that the global the countries who are actually patronizing this conflict in Sudan, like the UAE, as we heard, and also Egypt, as we heard, they are patronizing this conflict. They have to stop for the sake of the life of civilian, like the small kids, they are dying, and the women and elderly, they are also suffering a lot. So I think it's a global responsibilities, and I think the majority responsibility should be taken by the African Union leaders, and their common actions, plans to contain the situation in Sweden is very important.
29 till COP 29, no decision has made yet, but Bangladesh is still suffering and in a vulnerable situation, especially in the coastal belt areas. Sir, I want to get your take. What really you expect from COP 30 from Brazil?
Thank you so much for bringing the issues. Like, it's a very important issue in the global context. So we had a very beautiful Paris Agreement to neutralize the carbon emission and to reduce the carbon emission by 2100 by 1.5 degrees Celsius. Global temperature has to be cut down, otherwise we have a huge global threat of life and livelihood in every corner of the world. So that was the Paris Agreement target. But since then, no development, nothing has happened. So I think for me, the great expectation from this COP30 in Belém is to come up with complete implementation action points from the countries to curb down, to neutralize the carbon emission globally. Otherwise, the crisis is unfolding everywhere in the world. You know, in South Asia, we have seen a huge cloud burst has taken place in Pakistan, and massive casualties of life and livelihoods and assets has taken place. It's happened also in India as well, and in Bangladesh. In the coastal belts, we have been seeing that sea level rise is continuously rising, salinity is increasing, and the people are displaced from the areas due to riverbank erosion, coastal erosion in so many parts of the countries of Bangladesh. And also in Philippines, we are currently seeing a massive typhoons is taking place.
One after the other?
Yeah, one after the another. So we have seen the global climatic, the standard climatic ecosystem has been in jeopardized. So it's a global call of action is needed for reducing the carbon emission by the greatest emitters of the carbon, and also channeling the financial flows for the climate vulnerable countries to cope with these exacerbating climatic issues they are facing in their river, in the seashore, and also the salinity, sea level rise in the countries there. So which is a huge consequences for the people lives, livelihoods of this climate vulnerable countries. So global action is needed to reduce climate emission, and also nationally agreed upon action plan is very much needed. You can put a country's some embargoes, but if the nation doesn't feel that I have to reduce my carbon footprints, that will not happen, that will not actually materialize. So I think in this COP30, a great expectation would be, nationally determined contribution to reduce the carbon emission by that nation would be very much helpful and very much effective if that has been taken place.
Very nice, sir.